we're going to just have a very good chat, and basically sort of strategize and have some tips here and there for your paper. I had quite a good chat with Rayleigh just now, and he had quite some relevant questions. Really, if I forget the questions, please in the chat just remind me so that I can touch also on what we were talking about, because the questions were quite relevant. But
Yeah,
for the
sure, no
rest of the
stress.
class, perfect. The rest of the class, guys, you are writing next week. Um, I, I would say I have no panic, but you would say you are not the one writing, right? It's us who are writing, so we panicking. But I was saying, actually, I was agreeing with Rayleigh on the fact that this should be very easy. It should be, I expect everyone to do extremely well on this one. It should be 90s upwards, which is what I expect for test one from every student. I'm not being unreasonable, guys. I'm definitely not being unreasonable due to the fact that it's only touching on learning unit one and learning unit two. Yes, besides the fact that you had to practice and do some calculations, but let's just agree that this is pretty basic. It's very simple, and you're all going to destroy the test, right? But here is the big problem you see with the test is if you go into a test, regardless of how you prepared, you might have been well prepared, but then you're just a bit too excited, and then you make silly mistake, and guys, please pay attention to this. You just make silly mistakes, or in your calculations, you don't even bother actually to double check the answers you're finding. This is the tragedy of test one. Every year that I'm marking test one, I'm always like, wow, you this was this was a paper that you are going to destroy, and definitely the highest distinction, perhaps even 100 out of 100. I'm really being serious, but due to not to say really ludicrous mistakes, but here and there, you just forgot to double check your answer. I can clearly see that when you were doing the calculation, you didn't even bother to. As a rule of thumb, every time I use my calculator, I always double check or triple check just to make sure that the answer that I'm getting is the same answer, right? So when, for example, I do a double check and it's literally the same answer, I'm way more confident, right? When I triple check an answer and it's the same answer, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much sure that I typed in correctly on my calculator everything, right? Because you might just be typing and then you make a mistake here and there. So you can't just be doing one calculation on your calculator and that's it. That's basically the right answer. I think don't do that. Always double check, right? Really,
Sure, Patrick. I just
yeah,
have a quick question.
sure.
After we write the paper and it gets marked and we get our marks back,
Yep.
is it possible for us to actually get our marked question or answer paper back, just so that we can see where we went wrong, or are we possibly going to do like a feedback session where we actually get some insights into where we went
A-
wrong?
ab- Absolutely. So really, not only you're gonna get if you're lucky enough, you're gonna get I'm gonna write you a book on your paper to show you exactly where you went wrong and all that. But depending maybe on how normally you always okay. So to be clear, you're all gonna get a clear feedback where you went wrong on where you went right. But let's say maybe sometimes it could be pointless on certain questions normally you get feedback, but um since we're going also to run another session, so next week you are writing, after next week we're going to have a session to dissect your paper. so that you know exactly. So there could be things that are redundant or useless for me to write on your paper. Because not only I'll provide you, so basically this, what you are seeing, just let me know if you all can see. So this is one of your paper, right? This is one of your papers, sorry, in your test, test one, um prac, right? Practice, or let's say preparation, right? So this provides you, as you can see, thorough a thorough resolution to your paper. Let me put it that way, right? Where you can see clearly, this is what you should have done, these are the answers. So I'll always provide this for the paper so that all of you can have access to it, right? So what I'm saying is that on certain questions, maybe here and there, I'm not going to be writing all this on your paper, okay? But I will indicate where you went wrong. And that's the part where actually Rayleigh question is not actually unnecessary. It's quite useful. And that's the part where you need to put down your calculations or the steps properly. Okay, guys, you know that you could be tempted to consult with other colleagues of yours or whatever. Okay, so everybody is going to act here as a saint. We never consulted. First of all, this is going to be an individual test. I do not, I definitely forbid you from consulting another student. Why? Because it is pointless. It is pointless. And plus, you fall into the risk of being caught cheating, because what mostly happen, and because we are, this is a support session for the assessment, I need to tell you this, right? So when you've been dealing with numbers like me, I can clearly see certain patterns. I can clearly see how, few students tend to answer exactly the same thing and make the same mistakes. So the problem with that is that you might end up in a situation where, basically, you are being processed for, investigated for cheating, which is not what we want. So I am act, I am speaking as if all of you are responsible, and you definitely would not even think or dare, you know, consult each other. Because if it was a group test or group assignment, yes, you can consult each other. But this one is important. Second of all, the reason why I'm saying it is pointless is because if you are not doing well, I would actually recommend you to fail test one. Although I believe you should not fail, but I would recommend you or advise you to do poorly in test one. If genuinely you did make mistakes in your test, then you should be happy, because it is your own work. And then when we check, and then when you can check and see where you went wrong, guess what? You become more prepared, and more you will watch out for that kind of mistake. That's why in the past I've had students who did not do that well and actually felt so bad that they didn't get a distinction, while the rest of the class, the majority of people in the class, did quite well. And oh my God, I did not do well. I did not do well. And it's like a train smash. But if you think about it, if you go through your paper and see what you did wrong, basically, I mean, this is what you are here for, is that not only you learn, but I mean, you train your mind. Guess what? Those kind of students, when exam written, when the written exam on campus comes, they do very well. Those students tend to do very, very well. So I hope, and again, forgive me if I'm not being clear on this, but it's just, I just want to make you aware that, first of all, if it is your own work and you did not get a distinction, you should be proud of yourself. And if we go through the solutions together, We do it in class, and you can clearly see some of the mistakes that you are making. Brilliant. That's what we're here for. So I can bet you that when you're gonna write the written exam, if you've improved on what you were doing, because that's what it's all about, is that if I didn't do well, I'm going to improve. And I see most of the time a progression. When it comes to very, very good students, I always see a progression. So you might maybe get a 70, you didn't get a distinction, or 75 upwards, maybe you got a 70. The average of the class maybe is 75. No problem. The next test you improve, you are in your 80s, right? And the written exam on campus, not only you pass, but you get a distinction. Right, guys? So I hope this is quite clear, right? So Connor, there's a question there. Let me just check. Um, oh, okay, okay. Thank you, Connor. Actually, that's exactly what we were talking about, but just before we started the recording. So, and it was my intention to go through this, right? So, guys, remember, referencing is very important, right? You do not want to find yourself in a situation where you are accused of plagiarizing. Yeah. But here is the big problem. And I'm really making sure that whatever I'm saying it clearly to you, so that at the end of the day, we are all clear, and you're gonna do your task with no fear, because that's the problem. I don't know why most students, when you approach particular paper, you are so scared about the fact that I don't want to be caught plagiarizing. Look, you get more marks. So as I was saying, I do not believe you're going to have quite a lot of theory questions, but it's test one. You might get very theoretical or theory based questions, right? Here is how you approach. Okay. First of all, your textbook is your primary source, your textbook. You know how to reference your own textbook, right? That's easy, right? Not only you have the reference of your textbook, but you also know how to do your in-text referencing for your textbook. If you are taking a definition or from the textbook verbatim, you know how to reference that, right? How do you reference verbatim something from your textbook? You put it in quotation marks, right? Because I am taking it verbatim, right? But most of the time, you're not going to need to do it verbatim, because not only you are a tertiary level student, but you're a second year student, right? So you're not going to do it verbatim. You're mostly going to paraphrase, right? And when you paraphrase, basically you are indicating. Don't act like I might be the only one marking your paper. If I give your paper to another lecturer, let's say I'm sick, I'm not able to mark, right? You do not assume, well, the lecturer knows me and he knows I'm in his class, so he knows that I took it from the textbook. Well, that's not academic writing, and that's not responsible, right? A tertiary level student should not think that way, right? So whatever you're getting is as inspiration from your textbook, because that will be your primary source. You will literally, at the end of a particular sentence that you have gotten from your textbook, you have properly paraphrased, you have answered the question, you will indicate that the source of this is not myself. You did not, you're not the author of that. You took it from the textbook. And that is very important. And I will tell you why it's important is because let's say you have a long theory question, maybe of 30 marks or 20 marks, right? obviously you're not only going to stick to the textbook. In order for you to get more marks and to show that you've done actually your your research properly, because the more the marks, the more they expect you to give us a proper answer, not only looking at one source, but at least two or three. Do you get me? That's how you evidence your learning. That's how actually you are telling your marker, give me marks, I deserve my marks because I've done my research. Okay? So let's say they give you a long theory question. I don't believe it's going to happen, but let's say they give you a long theory question, right? 30 marks or 40 marks, right? Then obviously you're going to use your textbook, plus I recommend you to use two or three more sources. What you're doing is that if we don't know what is coming from your textbook and what is coming from the other sources, how will we know what you've been writing, if it's properly written, if it's academic writing or not? Because that's clearly easy for me to guess already that, well, there's a problem here. Not only you are not an author, right? You've never written a textbook, but you're just giving me answers and there is no referencing. You see, so referencing is very important. It's just basically to show me the source of where you got that information, right? That's all it's about. And yes, you reference your textbook, because I might not know the distinction between what came from your textbook and what came from another source. Are we clear on this? Is this making sense? So, but like I said, this is for your purely theoretical questions. Okay? Purely theoretical questions. But if it's not, it's calculation, right? You have, and now we come to the question of Connor, is that you don't need to reference a formula, but the interpretation to the formula, because you will draw your inspiration from your textbook, yes, then you will reference some section, right? If we ask you to interpret that formula, why are you saying what you are saying? Basically, we are saying, based on what are you giving me this answer, right? If not only we ask you to do calculations, you do calculations. So yes, again, I repeat, you don't need to reference the formula. If you reference the formula, it's pointless, but yeah, if you want, go ahead. It doesn't matter, but you don't need, because it's just a formula, right? A formula is a universal thing, right? It's accessible, you know. Unless maybe, you know, there's a particular formula that is not commonly used, or, you know, and maybe you want to show just, you know, the reason why I use this formula is I looked at another textbook, and this other textbook gave me this formula, and this formula is slightly different than the known formula, right? Then that's the reason why I would like to reference it. But go ahead. No, go ahead on that. I hope we are clear, right? But if it's a formula, it's not really needed. It's more on the interpretation of the formula. So, guys, the good thing with finance is that, you know, it's not heavy in referencing like the other modules. And plus, once you do your task 1 and your task 2, you forget about referencing, because your written exam, you won't need to reference anything. Are you getting me? So you should be at peace actually to do proper referencing for task 1 when it's needed, and for task 2. Don't forget to do your in-text referencing, as well as your referencing list at the end, right? Even if it's only one, even if it's only your textbook. Listen, there was only one question, theory question, so I referenced the textbook. Put the in the referencing list, put the textbook there. That's all. right? We just want you to be a responsible student. So is this thing clear? Can I get thumbs up on this one? Are we all clear on this? Agnes, perfect, perfect. Right. So I'm reassured. So by vote unanimity, we are all clear on this. Everyone who's going through this recording, the same thing. Do not panic. That should not, by the way, listen to this. A last thing when it comes to referencing, it should not make you be scared of referencing. Reference even more, because the more you are referencing, the more I'm going to give you marks. Because referencing, I was actually the plagiarism officer for many years, so I can tell you this. I can tell you this with confidence. I'll give you more marks if you are referencing, because by referencing, you are saying to me, I went the extra mile to consult other sources. So how on earth am I not going to give you more marks, because you are demonstrating that you've been learning? So referencing should never be something that makes you, or just the thought of plagiarism, it should not strike fear in you to say, oh my God, I don't want to be caught in this. No, not at all. Never be scared, especially for finance. As we have clarified, you're not going to get too many theoretical questions. So and in fact, it's only test one that might have more theory than test two, because test two will tend to be more numerical or numeracy based. Okay. So that's done, right? Guys, I need to touch on this quickly. Again, you've been provided everything. Here is PICE papers, right? Not only you have a paper and you have everything, the answers, the solution, the coloring. All I'm asking you is, before you move to the answer, can you look at the question and do question 2 on your own? Can you look without looking at the solutions, right? Can you do it on your own and then you check the solutions? Because it's pointless if you are looking at the solutions at the same time as you're looking at the question. This is the worst way of doing things. And normally in the past, I used to give you just the paper, but now for sake of time, I don't do that, right? Because I expect all of you to be responsible. So just do the question on your own and then check. And if you got things wrong, then you can say, you know what? I got this one wrong. And plus, I give you, even when they ask you to give an interpretation for your answers, right? I give you the interpretation and I give you the marks, how I am going to allocate the marks for your answers. You can see where I'm putting 1 mark, 1 mark. It's just basically to give you an indication that when you're giving me this kind of answer, you deserve 1 mark. You deserve 1 mark here. You see. So first tip, most important tip when you're going to be writing. First thing that I tell every student, and I'm also going to send it to you in writing. Read the questions. Read, read, read. You have no idea how many people just answer the wrong question. So there is no panic for you to have. Answer only what is asked of you. And this is good practice. Don't try to start answering things that were not asked of you. They were not required of you. So read properly the question and answer it accordingly. When you are looking at a question like this, you need to look at the number of marks. Question 2 is 45 marks. How many sub-questions? 4 sub-questions. You need already to do the calculations by yourself. This 45, I'll divide it by 4. which is about what? 11 or 12. So I know that it's probably 11 or 12 marks for each sub question. This is good practice, guys, you know? So time yourself. Know that I cannot write so much on one question more than the other questions, right? There are 4 questions, they are well balanced, unless they tell you question 4, 2.4 is 6 marks, right? Then I know for question 2.3, it's 14 marks. How can I write more on a question that is 6 marks than on a question that is 14 marks? Come on, guys. This is just logic, right? Do you get what I'm saying? So you can't have a question like this. You are writing 2 paragraphs on 2.4, and on 2.3 you write few lines. I mean, do you get what I'm saying? It wouldn't make sense, right? So look at the question, at the mark allocated to the question. Look at which question would require more marks. And yes, I'm not saying don't care about the other questions with few marks. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying proportion your response. Make sure that you are not giving me too much where you are asked something very simple. Does this make sense? So these are just tips and strategies. Is it clear? Perfect. Question number 3, for example, 35 marks, right? Check. 3.1 is 26 marks. Yes, I'll spend more time on this question than on this one and this one. So I wouldn't expect you to spend more time on question 3.2 and 3.3 than you spent on question 3.1. These are just strategies. Just make sure, and you know what? If you do this kind of practice, guess what it's preparing you for? It's preparing you for the written exam. Because the written exam, trust me, you will need to time yourself properly. Because is Esther here? Esther, can you tell us about the written exam? How tough is that exam? You will need to pace yourself. You have 3 hours. It's a long paper. It's 180 marks. You don't have time. So you need to have proper strategy from the beginning, from task 1. Get good practice, good strategies on how you answer your paper. Okay, perfect. So I trust that was clear. So again, read, read, read. Answer only what is required of you. Okay, very important. Okay, so here are your, so for example, for this paper, I'm not sure if you have already the video, the actual tutorial on your side, the resolution. So that was actually Riley question. Riley, this would be, for example, after the paper, this was the solutions that we did, the discussion in class, right? You have it available. I've also sent it to you on the chat as well as on the in your notifications, right? In your announcement. Okay, here you have a recording that is there. It's an audio recording. It's just to cover the paper again. Whatever I'm saying here, it is there. How you allocate the marks, check the marks. You are doing finance, you know, these are some of the things you should pay attention to. Check the marks, check properly the marks. Each question, how many marks are allocated so that you know how much effort, energy you need to spend. I hope that that's clear, right? So I will leave you to this. Like I said, practice first, check the solutions. And if you are checking the solutions, there's still something that is not right, something that you are not understanding, please send me a quick chat, not on the day before your paper, not on the day before, right? Not when you are panicking, right? So, but if there is something that you are not understanding, just let me know. So, can I get some thumbs up? Are we good? Are we clear? Perfect. I'm going to go now quickly just to touch on the few questions that I got from. Actually, how many questions did I get? Was it only, was it one or? So if you would just bear with me to be on the right page. Okay, so I had a question on, I think from Nafisa, and that was on the liquidity. And like I said last time again, which I'm going to repeat, no problem repeating, we just want to see the ability of the company to settle short-term liabilities, right? How do we settle short-term liabilities? We do not settle short-term liabilities as a good practice, right? Companies don't settle short-term liabilities with long-term assets. We're not going to sell the machineries or the building to settle short-term data, to settle one of our suppliers, right? We're not going to do that. That's not financial, a good financial practice. It doesn't make financial sense, right? So especially like I told you last time, when we're going to move to learning unit 3, actually we will delve even deeper into what is the working capital. You know, it's all about the current assets and current liability. Those becomes the engine that generate revenue in the company. They become the grinding machinery that generates profit in a company, right? So, but one thing we want to know, especially when it comes to liquidity, do we have, especially for current ratio, do we have enough current assets? Enough current asset, not only cash. Cash is what is one element of the current asset, as you know. But like I wrote here, for your current asset, you have cash, you have inventory, you have trade receivables, right? Or your datas, right? These three are very important, right? So we are looking at all this. Is it covering our current liabilities? Is it covering our current liabilities? But I told you, I said, if we want even to be more liquid, we do the acid test ratio. The acid test ratio, look at it very well. It takes away, what does it take away? It takes away the inventory. Do you see the inventory here? It takes that away so that you are purely left with cash. Does that make sense? That's all it's about. So current assets, we remove the inventory because the inventory is not liquid. It's not cash. Okay? It's not cash. But the current asset, which is cash, divided by the current liability. And the answer that you need to find is X divided by 1. I would suppose some people will have a bit of a problem with that, but let's take an example. All right? Here you have for 2024, or let's say 2014. Yeah, let's say 2014. Here you have your current asset. Do you see the total of your current asset. How did we get the current asset? We added all this together to give us the total current asset. This line is the line of the current asset. It is the total of the inventory. Are you seeing this? Of the datas and of cash and cash equivalent. If cash and cash equivalent are not there, we can find it. Because they gave us the total, we're going to take the total minusing what? Minusing the inventory, because the inventory is given to us, plus the datas. So we take the total minus this. It will provide us with what? With the cash. Are we clear? Does that make sense? Sure. So if you have one unknown, something that didn't give you, it's unknown, you can always find it. Okay? Why is it important? Why do you need to find cash? Because if they ask you to provide the acid test, you're going to need to do the current asset, which is 170, 107, sorry, minus the cash. Do you have your calculators? Guys, we are practicing. I hope you understand that we are practicing, right? What is the cash here? Please provide me the answer. What is the cash here? Nafisa, what is the cash here? You take the total minus the inventory and the data. You add these two together. No, 107 is the current asset. Current asset. The total current asset. Check what Connor wrote there. Connor is correct. It's 0. It means that there is no cash. There is no cash. So, Nafisa, I'm going to do this for you. But that's the reason why you need to go through all the tutorials, because we do this, right? You take 107, which is the total current asset. Total current asset is 107. You minus, you will need to add the inventory plus, I hope all of you are following, right? Because these are the errors that happen when you are writing your test. You can see 107 minus the total of inventory plus datas should give us, it should give us what? The cash. But we can see it is 0. Are we on the same page? So there is no cash. There's no cash on hand. Okay? So if they are asking us to do a current ratio, they want to find 107, which is our current asset, divided by our current liabilities. 107 divided, where is our current liabilities? Current liabilities, it's here, an arrow, it's 42. What is the answer? Come on, guys. We are practicing. Get your calculator out. Practice. Perfect. Thank you, Connor. So how they want you to write it is like this. It's 255 divided by 1. In other words, this is just an indication to say the current asset is 2,55 times bigger than the current liability. So we know that the current asset is covering the current liabilities 2.55 times, more than the double. So that's a good thing, isn't it, guys? It's a good thing because, and by the way, sometimes depending on the industry, so for this question, check properly. And again, pay attention to everything they provide you. Pay attention to everything they provide you. Where is our current ratio? Current ratio. There it is. Are you seeing it? Why? Because the industry, the average, the general norm is 2 times. The current asset should be 2 times bigger. The current asset should be 2 times bigger than the current liability, than the current liabilities, perhaps in this industry. So you need to read properly your question, for example. What is the industry norm? So this, what does it tell us? This is a good thing. This is a good thing because it is above the industry, right? Do we agree, guys? This above the industry. That's a good thing. And when they ask you to interpret this, you can even compare. You can say from 2022 upward, this thing has been going up. So the company actually was below the industry in 2022. In 2023, it was still below, it was now above the industry because it was above 2, and it's even getting better. So it has been, the company has shown its increased ability to be liquid. It's a very liquid company. So it can cover the short-term liabilities. So guys, we have few minutes remaining, but I think that was the only question that came from Nafisa, right? Nafisa, is this clear? Are you satisfied with this? Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect, right? Okay, guys, is there any other question before I leave you, because you need to have all the time to prepare and to work on this. But like I said, it's only learning unit 1 and learning unit 2. Guys, don't make it sound like it's very difficult. It's not. Please go kill it. Please, we need to get the highest distinction for all of you. No pretext, no excuses. No excuses for the reason why you couldn't get a distinction. This is very easy. But like I said, actually, I said this to Rayleigh. If you look at this and you understand it and you like it, you might even say that, this module is quite easy. Yes, it is. It is. Why? Because these are foundational. If you get them, then you are good. When we're going to move to advanced things, you are not going to struggle, right? So make sure that you never even lose a mark on these kind of things. Absolutely, Nafisa. Distinction, and the highest distinction, right? Because you by distinction, you are simply saying, I have mastered learning unit 1 and learning unit 2. And that will be a good thing, because then I am reassured that when we arrive at learning unit 5, At the more advanced learning units, you are well equipped to understand those learning units. All right. So if you have not practiced, so for everybody, even for those who have not joined us, if you did not manage to practice, and I know some of you came late, I talked to some of you. Unfortunately, your registration was sorted out late, but I'm happy that all of you told me that this weekend you are going to set the time that is required to to properly prepared for the test. So please do that. Practice on your own. Check what you are getting wrong and improve. That's what it's all about. So strengthen your knowledge, strengthen your knowledge through practice. Okay? So guys, if you are okay, just thumbs up so that we can wrap up for the night. We can leave it here for the night. If you do not have another question, if you do not have another question, if you want to have a chat after the session, so I see everybody except one person. Are we clear? Any questions? Can I stop the recording? Perfect. Okay, I'm stopping the recording, guys. All right, so go and practice. And plus,